Sure. Well, I mean, I think it's best that I tell you how I got involved in it because it kind of highlights why it exists. And in part, I had been working for a long time writing for the American Conservative magazine, writing a lot about foreign policy and the war, the global war on terror. So I've been kind of at it since about 2007. And I knew Trita Parsi from a lot of the work that I had done through the American Conservative and covering issues that ranged all the way through, Iran and the nuclear deal in 2015. And when he wanted to start Quincy, he had approached me and kind of gave me the pitch about, you know, building a institution that would not only appeal to anti-war folks on the left, but all of those conservative non-interventionists and realists on the right who I had been writing for. Basically, that was the American conservative audience for all that time. And the American conservative had been around since 2002 in the run up to the Iraq War. Pat Buchanan, Scott McConnell had started that magazine basically to oppose the neoconservative drive to war in Iraq. And so that whole audience was really ripe for the argument that there was something really rotten about our U.S. foreign policy and had been going on for some time, but especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, that the military industrial complex had sort of re-engineered itself away from the war on communism and had been looking and seeking out new monsters to destroy ever since. And after 9/11, that sort of brought the unfortunate gift to the military industrial complex in the form of a sort of Muslim insurgency or war on Islam, whatever you call it, whatever the phrase du jour was back then. And so we were finding ourselves in this repeated cycle of interventionism, but justified through this idea that the Americans need to lead the sort of liberal spread of democracy, protecting liberty and freedom across the globe. And we needed to get out of this cycle, and we needed smart people and active voices and basically courageous sort of intervention, if you will, into the Washington establishment to say, we've had enough of this. It's not working. We can see that in our failed war policy in Iraq, our failing war policy in Afghanistan, all of the new conflagrations that our wars started in the Middle East that are still going on, the displacement of millions of people throughout the globe, and all the way to our own U.S. troops that have come home, millions who have cycled in and out of those wars, coming home with injuries, both physical and mental, and the strain that it's put on their families. This has continued for 20 years. So I think, the founding of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft came at a real pivotal moment in which Americans were looking around and saying, this isn't working. And we've been listening to the government and the elites in Washington tell us for too long that war was the answer, that the military intervention was the answer in order to make us safe at home. We don't feel any safer, but we have watched our deficits go up. We have watched our armed forces be strained, and we feel like rubes at this point. And because it looks like all this is done as is benefited to military industrial complex and caused more instability overseas. And so I think we came into that, and I think we're doing a great job at making those arguments on Capitol Hill, making those arguments outside the Beltway, with really great scholarship from people who actually understand the region and people who have, who are trained to sort of communicate these issues. So I sort of came in the middle of all this as a journalist and an editor, and somebody who's been, on both sides of the aisle working for years. That I tried to, basically I run the Responsible Statecraft magazine, which is a media platform for all of these ideas. We have external and internal people writing for us, but no neocons allowed. And we're getting a message out there. So that's kind of where I fit into all of that.